Hello, my name is Thelma Ruby. I'm 100 years old and I'm an actress. And this is a short video about my career, which I hope you will enjoy.
Thelma, it's an absolute pleasure to be invited to your home to see you. We're going to start with what we call the What Happened To, which is a 25 quickfire questions. So let's start with question number 1. What is your full name given at birth?
Thelma Wigoder. Wigoder was my surname. I had no other first name, just Thelma.
When is your birthday and the year of your birth?
March 23rd, 1925.
As a child, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Leeds, in Yorkshire.
If any, how many brothers or sisters did you have growing up?
Just one older brother, 2.5 years older than me.
What is your earliest memory of going to the cinema or the theatre?
Well, my earliest memory of going to the theatre was to see my beautiful mother. She had a lovely singing voice, and she gave up being a professional when we were young, but she played the lead in the amateur productions in Leeds and Bradford and in Yorkshire, and she was wonderful. And there were shows like The Vagabond King or Madame Pompadour, or I can remember her in Bittersweet of Noel Coward. And so I would go and see my mother, and also her sister Mona, my aunt, she was an actress. Mother was more a singer, or a singer who could act. And Mona I adored, and she used to be in repertory in Yorkshire, and I used to listen to her lines when she was learning her lines as a little one. And I remember she was in a play called The Ghost Train, and I'd been listening to her lines, and I went to see the show, and she died, and I called out the line from where I was sitting in the stalls. I even remember what the line was. I agree with Willie. And I used to go backstage and see her, and that was my biggest thrill, just to smell backstage and see dressing rooms. And I was enchanted by the theatre from a very young age.
And growing up, did you have a favourite actor or actress whose work you really admired? Maybe a radio star?
Oh, well, of course, there was no television in those days, so we loved the radio. Oh, I loved, Arthur Askey and all the old comedians. I can't remember if I would have had a favourite, but I certainly enjoyed the radio. I loved it. I remember on a Saturday night, my brother and I had bedrooms next to each other, and my parents would put the radio on the landing between, and then there were 2 programs we listened to. One was In Town Tonight, and interviews with famous people who were in London. And then there was Music Hall, come on to Music Hall. And there were music hall acts that we would listen to on the radio.
Amazing. You said you were surrounded by it, going to see your mother and being backstage. But was there an actual event or trigger that first prompted you to seriously consider acting as a profession? And how old do you think you were?
This is a story I enjoyed telling because it was my secret, because I loved what Mona did and what Auntie Mona and my mother. So I had an ambition to be an actress from a very early age, but I was a desperately shy child, and I never told a soul. Not my mother, not anybody. But I remember in my bedroom there were 2 mirrors, and I would act in one to be a film, and the other one was my theatre mirror. And I never told anybody. And I didn't tell until I was in America, when I was evacuated at the age of 15, when I got a scholarship to a college there. And the lady who was interviewing me said, "What subject would you like to major in?" I said, "Well, my dad thinks I should be a writer, but I'd like to be an actress." First time I'd ever said it out loud. And she said, "Oh, we have a wonderful theatre arts department here. And that's the only reason I became an actress. I don't think I'd have had the courage to do it if I hadn't been evacuated to America. I really don't."
So I think you may well have just answered the next question, but the question is, did you ever attend a stage school or audition, study, or formally train to be an actress anywhere?
Yes, at this college in New York called Finch. It was a wonderful training. We not only learnt about acting, we learned to run a writing board, to do scene design, to do sound effects. We went as a group to Broadway shows. We learnt about criticism. We learnt about history of the theatre. It was a great, great course. And that's what trained me to be an actress.
And even before you began your acting career, or maybe when you were between roles at any point throughout your career, what other non-acting jobs have you ever done?
Not much. I realised at the beginning that I might not make it as an actress. And so for a fallback, because I was coming back to England, there were children's theatres in America, and I had jobs with children. I was a teacher. I used to go and babysit. I was an usher. I did all sorts of jobs to try and earn a bit of money over there. And so the only other thing I thought I could do when I came back was to start a children's theatre. But luckily my career took off and I never needed to do anything else.
So talking about your career, Thelma, what was your first ever paid acting performance, i.e. your professional debut? And again, how old were you?
That was in December 1944, when I came back in October 1944 from America. The war was still on. I was 19 years old, so I was eligible to be called up. And I didn't want to go into uniform. I didn't want to go into a factory. I wanted to use my newly honed talents. And Mother and I came down to London, and I got a job. It's quite a story, but I'll skip that for the moment. In ENSA, which meant Entertainment National Service Association. But as I said on television, the troops used to call it Every Night Something Awful. And that was my first paid job. And we went round to all over the country entertaining hospitals, wounded soldiers. I was in the hospitals division.
It's a little bit of a fun one for you now, Thelma. Can you remember how old you were, or what production you were working on, when someone first asked for your autograph?
No, I can't. No idea.
And did you ever put much thought into the construction of your signature, or did it just flow naturally?
I think it flowed naturally. By that time, I'd become Thelma Ruby rather than Thelma Wigoder. And that was during that audition for ENSA, when the man who said, "Oh, you're just what I'm looking for. What's your name?" I said, "Thelma Wigoder." He said, "You can't go on the stage with a name like that. Nobody will be able to pronounce it or spell it." And I hadn't really thought of a stage name. I quite thought of Thelma Leeds, which is where I came from. But my mother was with me, and her stage name had been her first two names, Paula Ruby. And so she said to the man, "Well, my stage name was Paula Ruby." He said, "Thelma Ruby, fine. Be at rehearsal on Monday." That's how I became Thelma Ruby in 1944. 44, and I'm still Thelma Ruby on the stage.
It's a great story. At any point in your life or your career, have you ever been starstruck when meeting someone famous? And have you ever asked anyone for an autograph?
I do have an autograph book somewhere, and for famous people I've worked with, it's rather an interesting one. Yes, I have, and I've still got a bit of that shy girl in me. I've always felt rather, well, not good enough or famous enough to be working with them, because I work with great stars. When you say, did I have anyone that was, I don't think I had what we used to call in my day a path. when you're really obsessed with somebody. But I certainly was very impressed with all the people I worked with. Yes, all the big stars.
And throughout your career, were you ever one for collecting any memorabilia? And other than that autograph book, do you have anything still today?
I've got masses of photos. Got a big drawer full of photos from quite an early age, even from plays I did at Finch at the college, and I do have drawers of cuttings actually, what people have written about me, and I have some old programs too. Yes,
Lovely, lovely.
I'm sorry for whoever's going to clear out my flat after I die, because I've got so much stuff, really. I should be throwing it away. But
Now, you've worked across all mediums, but to perform, what would you choose? Theatre, television, cinema, or radio? And what reasons would you give for your answer?
well, I think the only thing I haven't done is the circus. I'm not a circus performer. I have done pretty well everything else. And because my first love was the theatre, I always have to put it at the top. And even my voice, where I learned talk that I can be heard at the back of the dress of the upper circle, where nowadays, so many young actors are not taught that. They're just taught to mumble into a microphone. But I am at my best in the theatre, there's no doubt about it.
Which of your parts, performances, or characters would you say people remember you for the most?
Oh, I've no idea. I've maybe played Golda, the wife in Fiddler on the Roof, which I did 4 times, 3 times with Topple. I think they might remember me of that. Or maybe the other one I'm very proud of, and that is Fraulein Schneider in the show Cabaret, which I did with Judy Dench, who remains a very good friend. Films I've been in, quite a lot of films, but I've never had a big part or a major part. And I'm surprised that people do remember me. They do, which is surprising, but it's mostly from my theatre work, yes.
Now, it may well be the same productions again, Thelma, but taking more of an introspective view, whether it be for what you did on stage or screen, can you name any of your own individual performances that you are personally the proudest of or found the most rewarding?
Well, the 2 I've mentioned, I'm certainly proud of. Mistress Quickly to the Falstaff of Orson Welles. That's another one. I don't know. Through the years, I hope I can be proud of everything. No, there are some I wasn't very good at, where it didn't really suit me. But I hope I can be proud of all the things I've done through the years.
And it may well be something that still hankers to this very day, having done a number of auditions throughout your career. But is there one particular audition that you went for, really wanted, but unfortunately didn't get for whatever reason?
Oh, there are lots. I can't remember what offhand. auditioned for and didn't get. I remember one right back because I was in America when the show Oklahoma opened, and for my audition for Ed Summit, it hadn't arrived in England yet, and I sang the song by the character Ado Annie, and I always wanted to play that, and I never did. I never got the chance to play it, but I still sing, or used to sing, the songs. I Can't Say No. I mean, that was one of my favourite songs, but I never got that chance. Yes, there are others that I did, which I'd love to have got, but I didn't get.
Now, it may well have been because of other commitments and you were working on other projects, but have you ever had to turn down a part and again regretted the decision?
Well, I turned down a part at the Royal Court Theatre with a wonderful director, but the script was so dirty. It was so, it's something I just couldn't do. I couldn't bring myself to do it. That's a shame I never worked with him. I think it was Lindsay Anderson. And let me see others that I wanted badly and couldn't do. Yes, let me think. I think Gypsy, in Gypsy, the role of the mother, is what I think I could have done well and never got the chance to do. Something like that. Honestly, you ask me, and it's such a long and complicated career that I've had. I just can't bring it to mind quickly.
Now, you already mentioned some great co-stars, but what are the co-stars that really stand out that you really liked working with? And were there any that were, let's say, tougher to work with, maybe a little bit more unpleasant, maybe less giving of their time?
Well, there are two, and I suppose I shouldn't mention them, and neither of them alive, which a lot of people in the company did find difficult, but I didn't. I made great friends with both of them, and that's Topple and Orson Welles. Both of them were quite difficult to work with. A lot of people, and Stephen Burkoff too. And all of them became great friends of mine. That's part of my shyness, is that I'm not a fighter. When I was working with Stephen Burkoff, there was Anita Thompson and Henry Goodman. There were only 5 in the cast, and Stephen Burkoff wrote it, starred in it, and directed it. And when he said something to Anita or Henry that they didn't like, they would fight him back. I couldn't do that. If a director was difficult with me, instead of fighting back, I would burst into tears, I'm afraid. I'm a bit of a softie, I'm afraid. I think I might have had a bigger name. I might have been better known if I could have fought. I was never a fighter. Just as people say, how have you got to 100? And one thing is, I think I've never lost my temper, never. And people say, really? Never lost? I said, no. I burst into tears, but I've never lost my temper, and I've never been a fighter.
Great, great. Long may that continue. Rather than asking you who your favourite director was or is, I'll ask it in a slightly different way. Outline what a director needs to do to get the best performance out of Thelma Ruby.
Well, my husband Peter Fry was a great director. And he, just watching him work and living with him, taught me a lot about directors. And he said, and he's right, that a good director doesn't teach someone how to act, or doesn't give a performer how to do something. He says he has to get to know the actor and draw out what's the best in him or her. And that's what Peter did. And I think that is the secret of a good director. And those are the sort of directors I enjoyed there. And if you suggest something, they will go along with it and say, all right, let's try it.
Fantastic. A little bit of a left field one for you now, Thelma. You're hosting an intimate dinner party and you're able to invite 3 guests to come along.
Oh, dear.
Dead or alive, in the profession, outside of the profession. Other than your dear husband, of course. Who would you choose to invite and why?
Oh, dear. I once thought that, and I came up with people. I think Deanna Durbin, whom I adored, the actress. Maurice Chevalier. My grandmother said the only reason she'd ever leave her husband would be for Maurice Chevalier. Gosh, he was charming. No, someone else that I've absolutely adored. Oh, Joan Fontaine. I adored her as an actress. Yes, I think that would be 3 good ones to have for dinner.
Fantastic. Very female bias, but it's your dinner party, so that's fine. If you could relive one moment from your career, whether it be a production or a period of your career, which part would you choose to relive?
Oh, well, all the time when I really was getting offers and parts, and when I was a leading lady, where I really was known and was so lucky to get so many good parts and sit in the #1 dressing room. Those are the times I would relive, yes. Those were lovely times, and I remember them now with such a pleasure.
And you've been fairly candid, whether it be by your autobiography or your one-woman show. But tell us something about you or your career that one would just not know. Maybe you have a passion or hobby that you would like to share?
I've been so busy as an actress, I hadn't had a big hobby, I don't think. At the moment, I'm having a big fight to preserve the landscape out of my window, which the Wimbledon tennis people have got a plan that they're going to absolutely desecrate it. I can't believe they're going to cut down 800 trees, healthy, mature trees, and dig up all the grass from a capability brown landscape in order to build tennis courts which are not necessary. We're fighting it. We're fighting it hard as a group of wonderful people, all of us, feeling absolutely the same, horrified. I must say, if the plan does get through, I don't want to live to see it. It's a terrible thing to say. But to look out of my window instead of the beautiful view I have now, and to see them cutting down, hear them cutting down trees, beautiful trees, which we need to save the planet. And to see polluting lorries every 10 minutes are going to pass my window. Anyhow, that's one thing that gets me going at the moment.
Well, good luck with that campaign, my love. You've enjoyed such a long career. But what are your overarching memories of the career that you've had? How would you like to be remembered?
Well, although I've done everything from Shakespeare to, well, everything, I did a lot of comedy. And there's nothing more wonderful in life than making a whole theatre of people laugh. I'd like to be remembered as making thousands of people laugh.
Fantastic. And my final question, Thelma, bringing us up to the present day. Finish the sentence. What happened to the actress Thelma Ruby?
But she's still going strong. Oh, I can't believe it because I keep on saying I've retired. I don't, I just want to sit and watch television now. But I keep being asked to do things. Since my 100th birthday, which is over 2 months ago, I've done 2 performances. I've got another one next month. I've got a podcast coming up. and Talking Pictures is doing a 3-hour recording about me and my career and my life. So I suppose I'm still working. So I suppose there is still a Thelma Ruby there.
Thelma Ruby, thank you very much.
Thank you.